Alright, we're back in the new setup, the new apartment, and we're ready to talk about some moves that I have not yet covered on the channel because there's a lot of them. The Twins, they went out and got some pitching. Rich Hill, Homer Bailey, they added them to the rotation. I like the moves. The Nationals added a bunch of pitching, re-signing Daniel Hudson, signing Will Harris from the Houston Astros. We know the history between the Nats and Will Harris, of course. They also brought back Asdrubal Cabrera, signed Starlin Castro. Like, the Nationals have been very active over the last few days. We've got the Rangers getting back Robinson Chirinos, who came from there, went to Houston's back with the Rangers now. There's a lot of moves to talk about. Those were the main ones that are going to basically be headlining the video, but I will also mention some other minor moves and give you quick opinions on them. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like. That's the best way to show your support on the channel. Subscribe if you're new and you enjoy the content. If you love baseball, click that sub button, join the team. Remember to get in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about every single move that we talked about in the video. Do you like them? Do you dislike them? Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at GiraffeNeckMarc. Links in the description. And remember, if you guys want to save some money on tickets to your favorite sporting events, make sure to head on over to SeatGeek and use the code GIRAFFE to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. So let's get it started with the Minnesota Twins, because we got a lot to talk about with the Nationals, and the Twins, I think, made some really nice moves. These aren't necessarily the moves that you thought they would make. You thought maybe they'd go after Madison Bumgarner, a Dallas Keuchel, a Zach Wheeler, but they ended up getting some decent pitchers for the back end of that rotation to build some depth, because that starting rotation, let's be honest, it's not very strong. That's definitely one of their weaker parts of the team. But grabbing a guy like Rich Hill, grabbing a guy like Homer Bailey, who may not be all-star level guys. They're not Cy Young caliber pitchers, but for the 5 spot in a rotation, they can be very effective. And for the Minnesota Twins, I think it's a really smart pickup. Now, Rich Hill's definitely the move that I like the most out of those two. Homer Bailey, not crazy about it, but I don't think it's a bad deal. The Rich Hill one, though, I really like for the Minnesota Twins. You get a nice left-handed pitcher, which definitely adds a little bit of a mix to their starting rotation. And even though he only pitched in 58 innings due to an injury, I think he can be a solid addition to that rotation for the Twins. Now, he is coming back from like a modified Tommy John surgery, so we're not sure how much of Rich Hill we're going to get in 2020 and how effective he's really going to be, but based off the numbers that he's put up the last few years, I think that he's going to be a solid pitcher for them. He's always been a pretty high strikeout guy, averaging over 10 strikeouts per 9 innings the last few seasons. Since joining the Dodgers in 2017, he's averaging 100 innings a year, striking out 129, giving up 16 homers, a little bit high, and he does walk some guys, but a 3.3 ERA and a whip at 1.11, that's pretty solid. The biggest thing for Rich Hill has been his health, whether or not you're going to see him be healthy and pitch a full season, because it just really hasn't happened in a while. In fact, a full season for Rich Hill looks like it's about 130 innings, so if you can even get there, if you can get 130 out of him, 100 innings, you're going to be getting some really effective stuff. It's just you're not going to be getting a lot of it. Like, pretty much since his comeback, he hasn't pitched more than 130 innings, more than 25 starts a year. So as a back end of the rotation guy, he's good. I don't think the Twins are relying on him to be their ace or one of their front end guys, because if they are, they're in trouble. But for the back end, I like it, and he's not that expensive. And then Homer Bailey's an interesting signing, because I'm not a huge Homer Bailey guy, and the reason I wasn't big on him before is because that price tag that was around him that the Cincinnati Reds gave him was just absolutely insane. The amount of money he was getting paid was crazy. He's not that kind of pitcher. But he has shown in the past that he does have good stuff, and he can be a reliable starter once you get over the injury stuff. Because like Rich Hill, he doesn't pitch a lot of innings, but when he is on the mound, he doesn't do a terrible job. Now, before all the injuries went down, we're talking like 2010, 2014, Homer Bailey was definitely on the up and coming. But the injury has slowed him down a bit, and he had some bad years in Cincinnati. But last year, he split time between Kansas City and Oakland and had a really good year. Now, when I say really good, I don't mean like all-star level, but for Homer Bailey, getting healthy, pitching consistently, he had a nice season. In 31 starts last year, he pitched in 163 innings with a 4.57 ERA and a whip at 1.316, and his numbers went down in the second half of the year when he was with Oakland after the trade. K per 9 of 8.2, which was higher than his career average. Walks were down, home runs were up, but that's expected, and hits per 9 were actually down. So he had a nice year. 149 strikeouts to 53 walks. You're not getting ace kind of stuff, like I've said over and over in this video. Don't expect him to step into that rotation and be a number 1, number 2, or even number 3 kind of guy. He is 4 at the absolute best and 5 at the worst, even a bullpen arm maybe. He adds depth. The Twins need that. Their starting rotation isn't strong. I like both of these moves. Low risk, high reward. Then we've got the Washington Nationals, who made an insane amount of moves, like I mentioned already. Re-signing Daniel Hudson, getting Will Harris from the Astros, re-signing Asdrubal Cabrera, and bringing in Starlin Castro. So let's talk about the pitchers first. Daniel Hudson, as we know, was a huge part of their World Series run in 2019. He was their main closer going down the stretch, kind of taking over from Sean Doolittle. He was getting those high leverage outs, pitching multiple innings if needed. He was lights out in the playoffs, and honestly, in the regular season in 2019, he had a really solid year as well. It wasn't like he just appeared in the playoffs. He was good for them down the stretch. On the season, Daniel Hudson had a 2.47 ERA, and in the 24 games he pitched with the Nationals, a 1.44 with a whip under 1. Doesn't have the nastiest stuff in the league, but with the Nationals, he limited the walks, didn't give up a lot of hits, wasn't giving up the long ball, he was limiting runs effectively. And that's what the Nationals need. That bullpen is atrocious. atrocious. It was probably the worst bullpen in all of baseball last year, so bringing back a guy who was pretty consistent is going to help them out for sure. You saw what he did in the second half when they grabbed him. And then bringing in Will Harris was a really nice deal too. Now, 3 years, I'm not crazy about the length on that contract, but that's probably what they need to do to bring him in, and I'm okay with it. I mean, if I'm going to nitpick, that would be my biggest issue. But you're getting a really solid reliever in Will Harris. We saw him be one of the best relievers for the Astros last year. And in the playoffs, he was like their main guy. When they had big outs before it was like the 8th or 9th inning, they were going to Will Harris, and even sometimes late in games, they would bring him in. Last year, he pitched in 68 games, 60 innings with a 1.5 ERA, a whip under 1 at .933. The strikeouts were down, but the walks were down, the hits were down, so his whip was lower than it normally is. 62 strikeouts to 14 walks and 6 homers. Like I said, in the playoffs, he was pretty solid, except for that home run he gave up to Howie Kendrick, but even then, that was like almost a fluke home run. That wasn't a bad pitch. At the end of the day, though, I think these are moves that the Nationals needed to make if they wanted to stay competitive in the National League East. They got worse so far this offseason because obviously losing Anthony Rendon is a huge hit to their offense, but they kept Steven Strasburg, which is huge, added Will Harris, which is another nice addition to that bullpen, which definitely needs help. They have at least like 4 solid arms now in Hudson, Harris, Doolittle, and Tanner Rainey, so that's pretty solid. They've definitely put themselves in a pretty good position thus far. And then they brought back Asdrubal Cabrera, who's going to be like kind of their utility guy, playing second base, third base, wherever they need him. He's not your everyday kind of player, especially at his age. He doesn't have the mobility anymore, and he just doesn't even hit as well as he used to. But still, as a bench bat, that's a fantastic guy to have. One of the things that I loved about the 2015 Mets was their bench depth. You had guys like Juan Uribe, Kelly Johnson, sitting on the bench, ready to come in, play any position at any time, and be pretty effective, and that's what you're getting with Asdrubal Cabrera. And then they also added Starlin Castro, which is a more impactful move. He can play second base, he can play third base. If really needed, he could go back to shortstop, but that's not really his position anymore. And Starlin Castro quietly had a nice season in Miami. Now, he's not a guy who's going to hit for power, and his OPS is always going to be a little bit low because, again, doesn't hit for power, doesn't walk, but for what he's there for, he can be very effective, and that's just pretty much hitting. Last year with the Marlins, he played in 162 games, 172 hits, 22 homers, 86 RBIs, 31 doubles, an OPS at 736, which is low, but he hit 270. And the year before, while the power was down, he still hit pretty well for average. 278 average again, 329 on base, so walking a little more. And I think you get him in a more complete lineup like you will with the Nationals, and you're going to see his numbers actually improve like we saw when he was with the Yankees. He's not going to be the star of the show, but for a guy at the bottom of the lineup who can extend it, make it a little bit more deeper for the Nationals, I think it was a great pickup, and he didn't cost you a lot of money. Better than Brian Dozier, who could have been there, so I think you take Castro over. Fun fact about Castro, by the way, he's halfway to 3,000 hits. He's at 1,610 years. Did you guys even know that? Crazy stuff. He's actually kind of like a really good hitter. I mentioned Robinson Chirinos coming back to Texas to play for the Rangers, obviously with the Astros the last couple seasons, and I think this was a move that the Rangers need to make. Jose Trevino just cannot be the everyday catcher. He can't be your starting guy back there. Defensively, he's not too bad, but offensively at the plate, he offers almost nothing. So I think by grabbing Robinson Chirinos, you one, get a guy who is not great at framing, but he does work pretty hard behind the plate. He's not horrendous, just his framing's a little rough. And you're definitely getting a plus bat from the catcher position. Hits for power, gets on base decently well. I think he's a solid addition. Gonna get like 17, 18 home runs a year from him, driving in 60 runs, plays in about 120 games a year, so he's pretty consistent back there. The guy doesn't really get hurt too much. Be interesting to see what he does in that lineup in that new ballpark, but I think this was a nice pickup for the Rangers. Definitely an improvement on what they would have had if they didn't grab a catcher. And then I'm trying to see if there's like any other moves that I missed that were like worth talking about. Jose Iglesias signed with the Orioles. Take it for what it is. Jose Iglesias is just wanting to get paid and probably wanting to play every single day. He'll get that opportunity in Baltimore. He's better than Richie Martin. There's no doubt in that. So he is definitely going to be their starting shortstop. Orioles fans, though, you got really nothing to look forward to. You're going to be terrible again in 2020. So I'm sorry, but I'm not really going to go too in depth on Jose Iglesias going to the Orioles because it's just not worth my time. And I guess the other news and the final thing that I'll talk about in today's video is Jason Castro signing with the Los Angeles Angels. Of course, was with the Minnesota Twins last year. Kind of got bumped out of the starter role a little bit here because Mitch Garver went crazy last year. And honestly, Jason Castro, a solid pickup for the Angels. Again, an improvement on what they would have had at catcher because what their options were there, just they're not great. Only played in 79 games last year, but he had 13 homers, an OPS at 767, and what you're getting with Jason Castro is really good defense behind the plate. Now, he's not the best defensive catcher in the league, but that's kind of what he's known for. A nice left-handed bat as well to help out that lineup, which can be a little bit right-handed heavy now. You got Mike Trout, Justin Upton, Anthony Rendon, Andrelton Simmons, Albert Pujols. Overall, I think it was a smart move by the Angels to grab him. At the absolute worst, you have a defensive catcher who's going to be better than what you had in the past. So I think that's pretty much all the moves to cover. We're still waiting on Josh Donaldson, Marcelo Ozuna, Nick Castellanos, Puig. Those are like the 4 big guys that need to come off the board, but otherwise the offseason is pretty much coming to an end. The big significant moves have been made, and now it's just all the minor roster filling things, little bench pieces here and there. I'd love to know what you guys think about all the moves that we talked about in today's video. There was a lot to cover. I haven't made a hot stove update in quite some time, but it's kind of been a quiet hot stove because all the best players are gone. But let me know what you think about them down in the comments below. Remember to leave a like in the video if you did enjoy it, as well as subscribe if you're new and you enjoy the content. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram, GiraffeNeckMarc, links in the description. Otherwise, I think we're gonna wrap up the video there for today. You guys know the drill. YouTube recommends you watch this video right here, as well as this is my most recent upload. So click through those if you have not yet seen them. Thank you so much for watching today's video, guys, and I'll catch you all tomorrow for another video. Bye.